Until 1948, Palestine typically referred to the geographic region located between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. Arab people who call this territory home have been known as Palestinians since the early 20th century. Much of this land is now considered present-day Israel, which is the world's only Jewish state, located just east of the Mediterranean Sea. It is regarded by Jews, Christians and Muslims as the biblical Holy Land. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the world's longest-running and most controversial conflicts. The seeds of the conflict were laid in 1917 when the then British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour expressed official support of Britain for a Jewish national home in Palestine under the Balfour Declaration. The lack of concern for the rights of existing non-Jewish communities the Arabs, led to prolonged violence. When the British mandate ended in 1947, the United Nations (UN) proposed an Arab-Jewish partition of Palestine, between Palestine and the new state of Israel. This partition plan mandated 53% of the land to the Jewish majority state, Israel, and 47% to the Palestinian majority state, Palestine. The Arabs did not accept the deal and war broke out. The bloody 1948 Arab-Israeli war saw 7 lakh Palestinians flee their homes, a mass exodus known as the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe.
On 14th of May, 1948, Israel was officially declared a state, marking the first Jewish state in over 2,000 years. Just one day later, another war broke out between Israel and 5 Arab countries: Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and Lebanon. As a result of the war in which Israel was defeated by the Arab countries, Egypt was given control of the Gaza Strip, which is a densely populated strip of land that is mostly surrounded by Israel and peopled almost exclusively by Palestinians. Jordan was given control of West Bank, which is a landlocked territory near the Mediterranean coast of Western Asia. There was another major war in 1967, in which Israel defeated Egyptian, Syrian and Jordanian forces in a conflict that lasted just 6 days and resulted in Israel taking the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and Gaza Strip from Egypt. Israel has controlled these territories ever since. Despite a long-term peace process, Israelis and Palestinians have failed to reach a final peace agreement. Progress was made towards a two-state solution with the 1993-95 Oslo Accords, but today the Palestinians remain subject to Israeli military occupation in the Gaza Strip and in 165 islands across the West Bank. Though the two-state plan is clear in theory, the two sides are still deeply divided over how to make it work in practice. No one really knows where the conflict goes from here, but everyone agrees things, as they are now, can't last much longer. Israel's occupation of Palestine is too unstable to last.
Unless something dramatic changes, whatever comes next will be much worse.